The Kundalini safety problem. Kundalini isn't dangerous, rushing it is. The real issue isn't the practice itself. The issue is forcing intensity before the system has stability. It's trying to run more current through the same wiring without first ensuring that wiring can handle the load. Most beginners chase sensation. They want the experience, the opening, the shift. And because intensity feels like progress, they assume more is better. But sensation without capacity isn't awakening. It's overwhelm. Here's the reframe. Grounding isn't preparation for the practice. It is the practice. The foundation you build determines whether energy integrates naturally or destabilizes you. By the end of this video, you'll have a beginner-safe foundation that lets energy integrate naturally, without fear or force. Why grounding must come first. Every story of Kundalini gone wrong follows the same pattern. Someone attempts to push more current through a system that hasn't developed the capacity to regulate it. What forcing intensity actually does is this. It overwhelms regulation, bypasses grounding, and increases signal without increasing capacity. The nervous system receives a stronger internal stimulus than it can process, and instead of integration, you get dysregulation. The nervous system needs stability before it can handle stronger internal signals. This isn't metaphor. Practices that improve vagal tone, the measure of your nervous system's ability to regulate itself, increase your ability to handle stronger internal signals safely. The question that prevents harm is not, how do I awaken it? The question is my system ready to hold more? Before I go further, a brief note on approach. What I'm presenting here is informed by breath science, traditional frameworks, and trauma-aware practice. This isn't about making Kundalini safe by diluting it. It's about building the container that allows the process to unfold without destabilization. There's an implicit rule in all energy work, whether you call it Kundalini or something else. Nothing rises safely unless it's supported from below. You cannot bypass the lower centers and expect the upper centers to remain stable. You cannot skip the body and expect the mind to hold coherence. You cannot force arousal and expect regulation to follow. The body must be grounded. The breath must support calm. The mind must remain observant without fixation. These aren't prerequisites you complete and then move past. They are the ongoing conditions that allow anything else to happen safely. If your system is not grounded, any increase in internal intensity will amplify whatever instability is already present. Anxiety becomes panic. Restlessness becomes agitation. Subtle sensation becomes overwhelming charge. This is why grounding must come first, not as a beginner phase you graduate from, but as the foundation that remains active throughout. Before any energy work begins, 3 foundations must be established. The 3 essential practices. The 3 practices that follow form a system. Each one addresses a different risk. Together, they ensure that energy stays distributed, awareness stays calm, and capacity matches intensity. These aren't advanced techniques. They're foundational practices that teach your system how to stay stable under increased internal signal. If these practices feel stabilizing, you're on the right track. If something feels overwhelming, that's information, not failure. I'll show you what each practice looks like. You can try them lightly if you want, or come back to them later. The goal here is understanding, not immersion. The first practice addresses the body. It's called the grounded contact scan. What it does is bring attention into physical contact with the ground. This anchors attention in sensation, prevents dissociation, and gives excess arousal somewhere to discharge. The body is not an obstacle to overcome in energy work. The body is the container. If the container isn't stable, nothing you put into it will stay integrated. Here's what the practice looks like. You can be seated or standing. Bring your attention to the points of contact between your body and the surface beneath you. If you're seated, feel your sit bones against the chair, your feet against the floor. If you're standing, feel the pressure through the soles of your feet. Notice the quality of that contact. Is there pressure, temperature, texture? Let your attention rest there without trying to change anything. Just feel what's already present. Stay at a level where you can breathe comfortably and feel grounded. If your attention drifts, bring it back to contact. If intensity rises, soften your focus and return to the simplest sensation you can find. What this practice teaches is that the body is not something to transcend. It's the place where energy integrates. Without physical grounding, internal intensity has nowhere to go except into the head, and that's where problems begin. The second practice addresses the breath. It's called extended exhale breathing. What it does is lengthen the exhale without retention or force. This shifts the nervous system toward regulation without stimulating upward energy. Longer exhales support calming pathways. That's why we avoid breath holds at the beginning. Retention increases internal pressure, and if your system isn't ready for that, it amplifies arousal instead of regulating it. Here's the practice. Inhale naturally through the nose for a count of 4. Exhale through the nose or mouth for a count of 6. No strain, no forcing. If 6 feels too long, make it 5. The exhale should feel easy. Continue for several rounds. Let the breath find its own rhythm. If intensity rises above a 3 or 4 out of 10, simplify. Go back to natural breathing. The practice is not about pushing a ratio. It's about teaching your system that calm is accessible. What this prevents is over-arousal through breath manipulation. Beginners often assume that more intense breathing produces better results. It doesn't. It produces more arousal, and if your nervous system can't regulate that arousal, you end up destabilized instead of centered. The third practice addresses the mind. It's called open monitoring, or body-anchored awareness. What it does is train observation without concentration or effort. This prevents mental forcing and reduces the risk of obsessive internal focus. Here's the practice. Let your awareness rest lightly on whatever sensations are present in the body. Don't concentrate on any one thing. Don't try to move energy or visualize anything. Just notice what arises and let it pass. If a sensation appears, observe it. If it fades, let it go. If your mind wanders, return to the body without judgment. The goal is not to control your experience. The goal is to observe without attachment. Any sense of strain is a signal to pause, not push. If you find yourself trying to make something happen, that's forcing. If you find yourself fixating on a particular sensation, that's overfocus. Both create problems. What this practice prevents is the beginner mistake of turning awareness into effort. Awareness is not concentration. Concentration narrows focus and increases intensity. Awareness allows experience to move through without amplification. These three practices work as a system because each one addresses a different failure point. The body practice prevents dissociation. The breath practice prevents over-arousal. The mind practice prevents fixation. Together, they create the conditions for safe energy work. Grounded body, regulated breath, non-forcing mind. If you have those three, intensity can rise without destabilizing you. If you don't, even mild practices can overwhelm your system. The lesson here is simple. If these practices feel stabilizing, continue. If something feels overwhelming, simplify. Not push, simplify. If something does feel overwhelming during practice, here's what to do. Red flags and the overstimulation protocol. There are certain signals that indicate your system needs more grounding before continuing. These aren't failures, they're information. Persistent anxiety or agitation that doesn't settle after practice. Dissociation or numbness, where you feel disconnected from your body. Racing thoughts that continue long after you've stopped the practice. If you notice these patterns, simplify your approach. Return to grounding. Spend more time with the body practice and less time with anything that increases internal intensity. There are also certain conditions where additional caution is necessary. If you have untreated panic disorder, recent trauma without therapeutic support, or severe sleep disruption, grounding work becomes even more essential. This isn't about excluding anyone. It's about recognizing that sensitive systems need more stability before they can handle increased internal signal. If you feel overstimulated during practice, here's the protocol. Stop the practice. Open your eyes. Feel your feet on the ground. Lengthen the exhale for a few breaths. That's it. You're not trying to push through. You're not trying to complete the session. You're teaching your system that you can return to regulation whenever you need to. That capacity to downregulate is more important than any single practice. The real safety instruction is this: if these practices feel stabilizing, continue. If something feels overwhelming, simplify, not push. End quote. The beginner mistake is mistaking discomfort for progress. Discomfort is not always progress. Sometimes discomfort is a signal that your system needs more support before it can integrate what you're asking it to hold. In conclusion, integration before intensity. Beginner-safe Kundalini work builds a stable body, regulated breath, and non-forcing mind. These aren't steps you complete once. They're the ongoing foundation that makes everything else possible. If you build stability first, nothing needs to be forced. Integration happens on its own. If this clarified things, the next step is consistency, not intensity. Kundalini becomes safe and meaningful when preparation comes before power.